Yeah, just
Hello, everybody. This is DMG, and we're live with Dungeon Creation Live. And joining me is Spunkmeyer, who's going to help us in the next hour to come up with. Oh, well, I don't know what we're going to come up with. We're going to come up with some crazy stuff. So, Spunkmeyer is one of my patrons. If you would like to join us on here, you can always check out my Patreon, patreon.com/70system. There's lots of other things that happen there. So, how are you this morning, Spunk Meyer?
I'm good. I just have to mute.
You got a mute?
Sorry,
Okay.
I just had to mute the. Yeah, I was getting feedback. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So, what kind of style do you think we should be talking about today?
Talking to me? Sorry.
Yeah, fantasy.
You
or...
dropped out. You dropped out then.
That's all right.
Sorry.
You know what this internet's like.
Yes.
So, are we going to be talking fantasy, science fiction?
I'd like to play or talk about fantasy, I think.
Fantasy, okay, standard fantasy sort of stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Liquid Blade is joining us. Thank you for joining us. Of course, if you have any suggestions in the comments, be sure to pop them in the comment scroll roll on the left-hand side of the screen there, which is obviously on your right on YouTube, or you can pop it out and do whatever you need to do. So, in front of me, you will see the story structure guide. We may or may not use this, but this is available from 70system.com under downloads. And this has, if you've been watching my storytelling series on my channel, this is everything broken down, so it helps you with structuring the details of what we're talking about. So, fantasy. So, what sort of fantasy kind of I don't know, well, location, or what sort of location do you want to talk about?
I was thinking sort of a rural location.
Okay.
And I was thinking maybe a monastery or an abbey.
Monastery or abbey, okay. Alrighty. And are we going to go sort of standard, or are we going to go off the beaten track with this?
Oh, well, wherever it leads, I suppose.
Wherever it leads. Okay, so we need some suggestions in the chat for monasteries and abbeys. So for the kind of location we're going to be dealing with. And from there, we're going to build upon this idea and flesh out either a dungeon or a story or some sort of module. Okay, so a monastery or an abbey in a rural setting. So what kind of rural setting should we be? Like a farming or mining, or what do you feel?
It could be maybe an idyllic rural area.
So sort of English countryside-y.
Yeah, English countryside-y, but everybody, and the monastery or the abbey has an air of normalcy and calm, but in fact, there's things going on. Hidden,
Dark
secret,
dealings.
dark, horrible things happening.
This is starting to sound a little bit like Diablo. Diablo, the Butcher. Ice. Liquid Blade says ice. So maybe it should be the depth of winter.
That sounds nice.
Okay, so we got the depth of winter. So maybe there can be some kind of winter festival or something that is happening in this idyllic rural town.
Some sort of feast.
Yes.
Some sort of feast.
So a winter feast. Okay. So this winter feast.
Mini bonfires.
Mini bonfires. Okay, great. Mini bonfires. Excuse my handwriting. I'm not a doctor, but I write like one. So, okay, so we've got an idyllic rural monastery. So it'll be a little sort of hamlet, or a little bit larger than that, a town.
Hamlet town, yeah.
So, like 1,000 people live there, or 100 people live there, or what sort of
Let's go 500.
500 people? Okay. So it's bigger than a village, and so
Yes.
okay, so one would assume then that this monastery plays an important role in the social sphere of this town. Um, uh, so 437 Cosimo, are you able to see the chat, Spunkmeyer?
I can see the chat, yes.
Yeah, okay. So 437 Cosimo, the Abbey has an attached stable. Okay. All right, so let's bring the stable into this. So this is where the darkness happens, is from this stable. A nightmare is kept there. All right, so we've got...
Or perhaps something in the crypt. They're
Yes.
digging in the graveyard or digging in the crypt, and they stumbled across something.
Well, how about it has something to do with the stable? So the stable
Okay.
is... I
The
like the
horses
idea
keep
that
dying.
I like the idea that they're digging for something. So let's say the stable hand is digging out all the manure from the stable, and happens upon a trapdoor. So trapdoor under horse manure.
That must have been a lot of manure.
Well, of course. I mean, it's winter. There's nowhere else to put it. This is a shit stable.
Oh dear. So has a rumor got out amongst the townsfolk that something's been discovered in the stables and it's not quite right?
That's right. Okay, so we're going to put that as the hook. So
Yeah.
rumor about something not right in stable of the Abbey. Alrighty. Okay, so these rumors obviously will spread in the taverns and meeting places, and probably tavern is a bit overused. Why don't we put it in the marketplace?
Yeah.
So
Very good.
So it's the dead of winter. It's the feast. Everyone is here in the market area for the feast.
And everyone's excited because they're going to have bear baiting to celebrate.
Everyone's excited. They're going to have bear baiting to celebrate. So they and the rumors are spreading around the marketplace. Just writing this down here. Marketplace. So the obviously now we're coming to what sort of choice are the players going to have in terms of we kind of need to sort of put more bait on the hook for this rumor. So it's like, oh well, yeah, so what? Something happened in the stables. I mean, these could be level 15 guys that don't give a rat's ass about what happens in the stables of this abbey. So we kind of need to spice it up a little bit more.
So we just have like a bunch of potential rumors, but they could all be wrong or they could all be right.
Yeah, so 2 or 3 people say something, 2 of them are wrong and 1 of them is right. So, could this be the lost treasure of blah, blah?
So maybe some artifact or saintly artifact that had been lost for generations has been found, and it'll and that would mean that the village is either now cursed or blessed.
Yeah. Well, let's go with cursed.
Why not?
I like cursed. Let's go with cursed.
Or
We're all doomed.
Another rumor could be that it uncovered a staircase into the earth, and it's very dark, and there's strange noises coming out from the gloom.
Yeah, so 437 Cosimo, winter area in the market will have some covered areas to help people gather to talk. So that it'll be gathering and meeting places as the town are in the midst of festivities in this marketplace. Okay, so a staircase to a dark something. The lost fortress of something.
Maybe call. So yeah, the lost crypt, or the lost the lost mines of something.
The lost crypt is good, seeing as this is an abbey.
Yeah, and perhaps a call for brave villagers will go out, a rallying cry.
Yeah, so we just need to get a third one, I think, so we have. Yeah. Who will go and investigate? So what do we think for a third one? People in the chat. There is a delay, so there's probably about a 30-second delay, so there will be a little bit of a slowdown in response in the chat. But yeah, so okay, we've got a saintly artifact, which is cursed, a staircase to a lost crypt. Where a child, there may have been a missing child. So could this be where this missing child went? The legend, it's like a town legend of this missing child.
I like that. That's good.
Now, I'm going to do something. We obviously said two of them are wrong and one of them is right, but I think they should all three be right. So there's this legend of this missing child that's gone down the stairway to this lost crypt where there's a saintly artifact, which is cursed. This is getting good.
The ghost of the child leads us on.
So, Liquid Blade says something in plain sight, like in the town. Thank you for joining us, Shannon Stokely. So something in plain sight. There could be clues to these three things. So the legend of the missing child would be that, that's just brought up in conversation, and when they do a gather information or the social check or whatever to inquire with the townspeople, they tell them this story in various different modes of a child that one day went missing around the abbey. Staircase to the lost crypt. So there would be again, you can have ruins that are dotted around this town of an ancient, more ancient town that was destroyed in a war.
Yeah. Perhaps there's old symbols that no one actually ever understood on old stones in the village that they found in the crypt, and there's a link.
Okay, yeah, so they can, if they've got knowledge arcana or something to that effect, they can decipher this to mean that they're, that it's a map to where this crypt actually is. And the saintly artifact that is cursed, there could be a statue outside the abbey of some, old bishop or something that's holding this artifact aloft. Okay. So obviously, it comes down to the choice for the players is, do we investigate this? And of course, we have thrown in three really juicy Why the hell wouldn't you go after this? This sounds like an adventure and a half. So the choice is to investigate the trapdoor. Okay, so we need to now instill some sort of clock. So, there's got to be something that's going to sort of, kick this into high gear.
Yeah. Well, we have this feast coming up.
Yep. Yeah, so this will be...
Maybe things have to happen before the feast. Otherwise...
Yeah, because this could be a big...
The curse will descend upon the village or something.
Yeah, so there'd be some kind of detriment. So people will leave the town in droves before the feast, which will mean a bad harvest the next year.
Yeah.
So the consequences will be, bad harvests, disease will spread amongst the town.
Yeah, a blight of some description. Pestilence.
What are the other horsemen of the apocalypse? War,
frost.
Unending frost. And they can talk about how this is what happened last time. This is why this thing was lost, because they didn't want anything to do with it, or there was some reason why this why this artifact was lost to the world. Or buried, or whatever, and the reason why is kind of lost, I suppose. So Shannon Stokely asks, "What kind of abbey is this?" So, so it is it's an idyllic English countryside setting. It's in the depth of winter. It's going to be sort of a winter feast where there's little mini bonfires all over the show. There's about 500 people who live in this town. In the stable hand discovers underneath a whole bunch of horse manure a trap door. So this starts rumors in the marketplace about a saintly artifact that's cursed, staircase to a lost crypt, and a missing child legend. So these all seem to be rumors, but they're actually all linked together. It's actually one specific thing. But as they gather information around town, this is what they will begin to... Or if they started in town, they would just know of these 3 different rumors or historical legends of the town.
So perhaps the oldest monk in the abbey, wise old Prospero or whatever,
yep,
remembers when he was just a boy.
That's
something
right.
About these rumors, and he warns them that something must be done before the feast of the whatever. Otherwise, it'll be doom and gloom. And
what's also
an apocalypse.
What's also cool is you can tie him in as the mentor. So you have the wise old abbot figure.
I mean. Yeah.
So
exactly.
You've got the clock. It must happen before the feast. Which is the next evening. So it gives it a very... Sorry? Sorry, what did you say?
The winter solstice is in the chat. Winter solstice is
down
winter
in the
solstice,
chat. Which is the winter solstice.
Feast. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So this must happen before the feast the next evening. So they're talking to the wise old abbot, who gives them information about this saintly artifact, the lost crypt, and the missing child. So I think it should be one of these. So we kind of want to make it look like it's only one, but it ends up being all 3. So he will probably know more about the saintly artifact if we went with the statue thing that we talked about earlier. So there'd be some old abbot statue holding aloft this item. So he says, that abbot, he, did dealings with the devil, did he? And we threw him out. And so he will need to give them some kind of advice or an artifact or something that's going to help them later on. So I don't know if you want to sort of leave that for a second so that we can come back to that, and we'll just continue on. So, all right. So they will want to descend down into this trapdoor. So obviously, this gives us a natural gateway to the netherworld, the dungeon itself. But there needs to be some kind of test. So what kind of interesting test can we make them do? Welcome, Downtown Dad. He says we can start now that he's here. How about something like it's a very long drop, so there's no actual stairway? Or the stairway has collapsed.
Yes, I like those ideas, either one of those.
Okay.
But I think the idea is that it's extremely dark, and it's strange that even if you drop a torch down, you can hear it land, but you can't see it.
Okay. So there'd be some kind of...
Like, there's a fear threshold that
Yeah.
the players have to conquer because it's going to be dark for the first 20 feet or something.
Okay. So it's almost like a leap of faith.
Yes.
Extreme darkness. Torches are extinguished.
Well, they glow, but they don't emit illumination.
Okay. So there's just sort of this void as such.
Yes. Yes. I suppose it's like a darkness spell.
Okay.
If we're going the old D&D.
Heresy! Okay. So they will basically have to drop through here. So they can either climb down with a rope or drop through here in order to get inside. So how much of a drop should you think there should be? Like about 50 feet?
I would say 20 feet.
20?
So it's easy to get out there. It's easy for people to get out if they need to, quickly.
But it makes it more interesting when they have to try to get out, if it's 50.
But it's also deadly if they slip.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking.
Do we want them all dead at the front of the adventure?
Or definitely,
Well, some may.
Some may, but it gives it more of a. Let's do halfway. So let's do 30 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's if they don't use something like a rope or whatever, then they will suffer some kind of damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could make the room circular too to add to the disorientation.
Yep.
And they'd have to feel the walls for an exit.
So total darkness.
Yeah.
Okay. So well, that actually brings us to tests quite nicely, because the first test is how to get out of this circular room. It's in complete darkness. So we can do some kind of... Because what a lot of games tend to do is like, you see symbols on the walls, and then you push the symbols in an order, and then some door opens, right? But what if you can't see the symbols? What if you can only feel things? So it's a puzzle by touch almost. So we make it very, very simple. There's however many players there are. So if there's 4 players, there's 4 symbols. If there's 2 players, there's 2 symbols. If there's 1 player, there is 1 symbol. So they all just have to push the symbols in. That's all they got to do. But they have
Sounds good.
They have to kind of find them and that sort of thing. So symbols on wall, feeling around and push to open. Okay. So, I think then you want some extreme change. So, I don't know what you think, but maybe then it gets flooded with light.
Yes, sort of divine, sort of eminence.
So this is almost like the lock that locks this crypt. And this will, the light will flood in and illuminate the chamber, and then they'll be able to see. What will they be able to see?
A passage or a door or something. The next stage. What about also when you're discussing the mentor? He provides a poem or an old saying that has something to do with searching in the darkness for something.
Okay,
and that will reveal. Sort of. So instead of saying, "Jump down into the black pit, feel your way around until something happens," if they actually go down there thinking that there's some sort of proverb or riddle or something that they have to follow.
Okay,
so
cool. So the first part of the mentor then should be this poem that he reads, and like each part of the poem is a clue to what to do in the various stages within it.
Yes.
So search within the darkness. Okay. All right. So in the chat, we need to start coming up with some tests. So think about things like combat, exploration, social interaction, these kinds of things, as to what kind of tests we can go through. We've already done the symbols on the wall. So to this then illuminates this area. So we're now thinking about how do we get to the next phase. So the next phase should be so in the middle of the room, the sort of the floor starts to drop down to reveal a spiral staircase. Did you hear me?
I like that.
Yeah,
very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's at the bottom of the staircase? That's the question.
Indeed. What is at the bottom of the staircase? So I think we can start to work backwards from the major event. So the major event would be that we're searching through this for the saintly artifact, the missing child, and the lost crypt. So the major event will be something has to be in this lost crypt. It would have to be this mad abbot who worshipped the devil or whatever. He is in this lost crypt. So I think you need to have some kind of battle with him.
Yes. Will the beginning of the crypt complex start at the bottom of the staircase? I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense. But I'm sort of just starting with the end and then working back so that we can structure it that way. It'll just help, I think. So the major event is then a combat with. Would he be undead or demonic? I think demonic is pretty cool.
Demonic sounds good.
So he's like chained up in this crypt.
Sounds nice. Yeah. It could be held with some type of paralyzation or stone-like, or caught in a slab of carbon.
That's exactly my thinking. My thinking is he's petrified. So they use the cursed item to petrify him, and the moment they remove the cursed item, he's no longer petrified.
Yes.
So they're the ones who cause it to happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Oops.
Oops. So, yeah, going back to the rumors, then they could, the saintly artifact. They're always talking about the saintly artifact. You just wouldn't say that it's actually cursed. And the curse is that it petrifies whoever is holding it or whatever. So, okay, so yeah, all right. So we got the petrified mad demonic monk. Just writing this all down.
We can call him Donald.
Donald. Don Wald. How about that?
Yes.
Donwald. Donwald,
Yes.
the demonic monk. Okay. All right. So, his statue comes to life.
That's going to be like the so-called boss room, right?
Yeah,
At the
that's
end?
the boss
Yep.
room
Okay.
at the end.
Yep.
So we're just kind of working backwards from that point.
Backwards. Yep. Would there be undead guardians before then that were put in place to ensure that he's never reanimated? That sort of caper.
Undead would be the first thing you would probably jump to, but I think crazed demonic creatures like golem type, just like I've been living here for centuries, living off spiders and that kind of crap.
Yes.
I don't know. Is there a specific D&D monster that would be that would fit this scenario, or we just make something up?
Gargoyles, perhaps.
Gargoyles?
Their monastery. Yeah, that's sort of belong in a... I consider a gargoyle to be, sort of...
monasterial.
Half monasterial and sort of half their life they're standing around like a stone statue.
Which is great, because
like
that there could be... Going back to the town again, the abbey can have a lot of stone statues. It's like, there's an odd number of stone statues, and that kind of foreshadows what you're going to be doing.
Yes, a hell of a lot of, gargoyle statues everywhere. Yeah.
So there's lots of gargoyle statues and stone statues. So this place is famed for its statuaries.
Yes. They could be like your sort of main sort of combat creature while you're down in the crypt.
Yeah.
I also thought of thinking of another sort of creature as well, but simply because of the stables and the manure, there may be some sort of amorphous blob comprised of horse manure.
That's cool. Yeah, there's like the shit demon.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of manure in that stable.
That's right. And then it's like, well, that's where all the manure goes. Yeah, so like a manure cube.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have gargoyles roaming the corridors. And we have a manure blob. Okay, so there's two combats right there, so we can use those. So the gargoyles should. There's something special about gargoyles. Obviously, they're partly stone or whatever, but again, this is foreshadowing the petrified nature of the mad demonic monk Donwald. We need to give them we need to give them clues as to how, to the that make them actually take this artifact from his statue, but they've got to treat it with like respect, like they got to wash their hands with holy water or something beforehand so they don't turn to stone. So maybe there should be a like a font, a room with a font of holy water or something that
Perhaps there's like a small waterfall, and you have to you have to test the people. If once they walk through it, they're sort of cleansed, but they don't know if they're walking through a acid, or they don't know if they're walking through poison. But it's another one of those. It tests their faith or tests their resolve.
Okay.
To do something like that.
Okay, so we need to then put that into the poem that the mentor talks about. So it'd be cleanse thyself.
Yeah. In the in the waters of what obviously
in the divine
put a bit of work into that.
Yeah, in the
divine
waters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It could also if you're suffering as well, it could be an easy way to heal up the party before the big fight.
Yeah, I'm thinking of another thing though. So they come across this waterfall, and it's like a dead end.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go beneath the water and swim through, as we've done this in one of the previous dungeon creation lives, where the party had to swim underneath to get to the actual dungeon itself. So we can use the same concept of the thing says cleanse thyself in the divine waters. So basically you swim through this pond. When you go down, you can see light ahead and you can swim through. So it's not that far, but so that is where they have to pass through this thing.
And would they have to remove armor or make themselves more vulnerable to do so?
I think maybe it's just keeping it simple. You could throw more of the religious aspect to it, just to fluff it up a bit. But the basic concept is basically they just got to swim through.
Okay.
I mean, if you want the water, you feel refreshed, so they get 1 hit point or 1 injury back or something, or it's the same as having performed a rest, or something to that effect.
Is there any chance of some sort of creature swimming in the water with them? They're going to make it too hard?
Yeah, because we've got the gargoyles and the manure blob, and then we're going to have this combat. So you'd have 3 combats already.
Yeah.
If it was going to be anything, it would be like a friendly spirit that lives underwater. Like a water sprite that gives them information.
Well, yeah.
So
water sprite or...
So we can have it. The water sprite is like the protector who then judges them. Once they come out the other side, the water sprite says, "I've judged you as being, worthy to enter here, but beware, whatever."
Yeah, that's good, and it could give them some type of bonus for the upcoming encounter.
Yeah. So, so the water sprite can gift them with knowledge or a special thing or a magic item or something,
or a one-use item that will sort of
well, it
allow
has to, I think it needs to be something that lets them get this object from the statue. So the guy is obviously holding this object, which is petrifying him.
Mm.
So it needs to be something that allows them to pick up this object from his hands.
Maybe it's some sort of oil or something that you can pour on the statue, and that'll trigger the unfreezing effect.
Yeah, so oil of magic item removal.
I don't. Well, just an oil that awakens or triggers the response.
Okay. Gives
Maybe.
them oil, a holy oil, a holy ointment.
Yes, a holy unguent.
Unguent. I love the word unguent. I can't spell it, so I'm not going to write it down. Isn't it? I think it's like ungent.
Unguent with an extra U.
Yeah, ungent with an extra U. Yeah, so let's have a look here.
I mean, in my mind, I imagined the sprite handing a little sparkly glass vial to a party member, and then the party member unstoppers it and tips it just a drop or two onto the statue of of Donwald, and that reanimates him.
Yeah. So someone's mentioned in the chat the oil of thawing.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put of thawing. Okay, so yeah, all right. As Downtime Dad says, you can smell the manure blob way before you see it. Yeah, so the smell of manure when you come into the place lessens until you actually go back in, and then the manure smell strengthens again.
Yes.
You know what would be really cool is some of the gargoyles actually emerge from the manure blob. There's like, it's enveloped them. Oh, gargoyle! That's where the name comes from. It's like the local tongue for bad-smelling demon-winged thing. All right, so yeah, so the test of basically the water sprite deems them to be worthy, gives them the holy ointment of thawing, and then they step into this crypt, which there is this petrified monk, it's a statue holding this item. And in the corner is the little girl, because we've forgotten about the little girl. The small child.
She could be the sprite.
Excellent idea. Excellent idea. The missing girl. Missing child. When I went missing oh so many years ago. That's great. That is a cool one. That's good.
Have you seen my dolly?
Have you seen my dolly? Take my dolly and use it against the bad man. All right. All right. So they come in. They depetrify this guy. He obviously starts using his spells or whatever. However, we'll leave this up to whoever's running it as to how they want to play this mad monk. So they need to be rewarded in some way. So, I mean, the usual thing is treasure, which of course you could do, but they find about his person some other artifact, which may come in handy. What do you think that could be?
I think it needs to be something that leads on to the next chapter, something that hooks them into the next stage. So it doesn't give them the complete answer, it just gives them part of an answer that they then have to find that next stage in their next adventure.
So it's something that will be part of the greater adventure then.
Yeah, part of just sort of forwards what they find forwards the narrative.
And a bag full of gold pieces.
And the gratitude of the abbot.
The gratitude of the abbot, yes. All right, so we need to get them out of here. So we need to start another clock. Like
Does it
Downtime
sound?
Dad's part of a journal or a tome. Yeah, so you
Mm.
find the abbot's old diary. The Mad Monk's old diary. And that can contain a map to some treasure or to his allies or whatever. Okay, what kind of clock can we have now?
Do we hear the sound of the staircase going back up into the stable? We have to race to basically climb on board.
Um, I mean, that's one. That's one. I'm just trying to think if there's another way to. Yeah, I think the stairwell should go up, and they're now trapped inside this place.
Or could that divine light that was once triggered start to slowly shut itself down, and you're room by room, corridor by corridor, it just gets blacker and blacker, and you've got to race against the darkness.
Okay, so the divine light begins to dim.
It's not like it's death at the end of it, but it creates a feeling of fear and uncertainty that the party will just think, oh, we'll better get the hell out of here.
Yeah. So the divine light begins to dim. They need to race to get to the exit. They can hear the stairs starting to wind back up, I suppose.
And they can smell manure again.
Smell manure again. It's like
there could be a second blob.
It's the mother-in-law. Okay. And sound of the stairs grinding. Well, more a vibration, because obviously the water from the thing that they've swum under would have deadened a lot of the sound. So it would be the vibration. There's a vibration that's starting to happen. And you
See
can
the water ripple.
Yeah, so that's in the gateway when they solve the spiral staircase. You can talk about it vibrating. So there's a link to that,
Yes.
and it takes like about 10 minutes for it to lower down, or 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So that they go, oh sure, but we've got 5 minutes before this place seals up. You will be sealed in your doom. And that you can have the water sprite basically notify them of that. Do not be sealed here as I was.
Yes. They come out at night, mostly.
Yeah. Just writing this all down. Okay. All right. So, they scramble up these stairs, and it's like an Indiana Jones moment where you've got, it'll act like a crushing room trap. So they really have to squeeze their way through here, otherwise they do a severe amount of damage. So the stairway acts as a crushing room trap.
Could they be given a? This is pretty mean, but could they be given, if they're carrying stuff like a bag of gold or an artifact, or they've got two things in their hands, in order to get past a very tight space, they have to surrender one of those items?
Yeah, that's how you would want
cruel.
to play it. Yeah, it's but that is that whole sort of Indy leaves his hat behind kind of,
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just I think how you would play it. It depends on so get them to lose an item or take damage or whatever.
Yeah, it keeps the suspense
Like
of the exit higher as
they
well.
may need to use a magical weapon or something to keep the thing open for a few moments because a normal weapon would just get crushed.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so
Somebody mentioned there's staff that they found, so maybe the staff can be used to prop, just to hold the stairs for that vital 5 seconds as they can all get up.
That's right.
But you lose it in the act.
Yep. And then obviously they get spat out the other side into the welcoming crowds, and where they are obviously now in the feast. And the feast is no longer just a winter solstice feast, it is now a feast in their honor.
Indeed. So that's a celebration.
Yeah. Okay. So the only thing really left is the wise old abbot. So you got search in the darkness, cleanse thyself in the divine waters.
Dropped out.
Yep. Someone obviously started using an Apple product.
Not in my place. It's empty.
Is your video on?
Yes. Yeah. I think. Should be. Hang on, did I go? Okay.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a technical issue there. Sorry about that. My internet drops every now and again. Unless it was, of course, a sunspot that just decided to erupt and wipe out the world's communication.
Yes. Or an impending meteorite about to strike.
That's right. The meteor is about to strike. We have to finish this adventure. Okay. So, yes, so we have the wise old abbot. Search within the darkness. Cleanse thyself in the divine waters. Take that which is most sacred, to vanquish thine enemies. Okay, so we've got search within the darkness, cleanse thyself in the divine waters, take that which is most sacred to vanquish thine enemies. So it's obvious and cryptic enough that it will reveal as it goes.
Yes, indeed.
And it's nice and short.
You got to think that people have been drinking beer while they're playing.
That's right. Yeah, there's too many puzzles to blow the blow the ship out of the water. Alrighty. So, a title for this adventure.
I'll leave that up to the chat, I think.
Yeah, okay, we need a title for this adventure, chat. So, let's run through it from the top. So, we have a small English countryside type rural idyllic setting. There is a large monastery there, and it is in the dead of winter. It is the winter solstice is about to occur. Everyone is gathered around for the festivities. There are many bonfires all over the show.
Bear baiting.
Bear baiting. We can't forget the bear baiting. And, of course, then the stable hand in the monastery's stables, while clearing away a large pile of manure, discovers a trap door. Of course, rumors then spread through the marketplace in this town, of which there's about 500 people that live there. And people start going on wild tangents about a saintly artifact that has been missing for years, the staircase to a lost crypt. Could it be, and the legend of a missing child? Is this where this child may have gone missing? Of course, all these rumors are actually true. They're all part of the same narrative. So rather than being red herrings or whatever, they're all actually part of the same story. So the town is filled with statues, which it's famed for all the statues that it has. It's quite unusual. And the adventurers choose then to investigate this trap door that they've heard about, because a cry goes out, if it is these things, this could spell doom for the Winter Solstice Festival. We're talking about a threat of bad harvests, disease, a blight across the land, an unending winter. All these sort of problems are things that could occur. So hopefully this will then, of course, entice the players to follow this little hook and descend to the stairwell. But first they meet the wise old abbot, who again reinforces one of the stories, which is about the saintly artifact. Says it is most likely that about the lost crypt. Says this is most likely where they buried Donwald, who is a crazed monk who brought our abbotry into bad repute, and we do not like him. He was a foul old fellow, So and he remembers that in the last week or so he was going through some old manuscripts, and he found this poem which may be of interest. And the poem says, "Search within the darkness, cleanse thyself in the divine waters, take that which is most sacred to vanquish thine enemies." And he said this may have something to do with it because it comes from an old story about Donwald, written by a legendary scribe who used to live in this town. So they decide, yes, let's go and check out this trapdoor. So they open the trapdoor and find there's extreme darkness. Their torches don't emit very much light. It can be described as a void. There's like a darkness spell that is cast around here to put fear into whoever wants to descend through this hole. It is a 30-foot drop that goes into a circular room, which is in complete darkness. So what they have to do is they have to feel around the walls, where they will find a number of symbols that they can feel on the wall. There'll be a number of symbols equal to the number of players that are in the game. And if they all push those symbols at the same time, the room is filled with a divine light, and a spiral staircase, the room begins to vibrate as a spiral staircase is formed in the circle and goes down to the dungeon below. So they will then begin to roam around in the dungeon, in which case they will begin to smell this overpowering stench of manure, where they will encounter manure blob, and this thing will act almost like any other sort of goo, blob, gelatinous cube, etc., just made from manure. They will also find gargoyles roaming around as well, so that you can foreshadow what is coming later on. Eventually they come to a dead end, and in the dead end is a waterfall of holy water, so it's pristine, cool, extremely clear water. And this links back to, if you want to get them to do a mental check or something, to remember the poem where it says, "Cleanse thyself in the divine waters." So when they go underwater, they see that there is a tunnel through that they swim through and pop out the other side, in which case then a water sprite appears to them, which is the spirit of the missing child from the rumors. And the small child says, "I have judged you to be worthy," and gives them a vial of holy ointment of thawing, which will help them when they enter the next chamber. So the next chamber is the crypt of the petrified mad demonic monk Donwald, who is a statue in the center, and he's holding this saintly artifact, which is cursed, and the curse is it petrifies whoever touches it, except those that are using the holy ointment. So they will use then the holy ointment. The mad demonic monk comes alive, and they must defeat him or her. Although Donwald is a strange name for her. So once they've defeated the mad monk, they discover his old diary, which will, of course, then give them clues and hints to other adventures. Or you can use it continuing on for other purposes in your game. Suddenly, the divine light begins to dim, and it's noticeably getting dark pretty quickly, and the surrounding stonework begins to vibrate in the same way when the spiral staircase was coming down. So there's the assumption that the spiral staircase is going out, and the water sprite talks of them being sealed in. Flee now, before you are sealed in forever as I have been. So they go then, pace their way back to the stairwell, and the stairwell acts like a crushing trap. They've got to squeeze their way through and possibly use a magic item or an item of importance to hold it open just for the last sec while the last person gets through, and that item is destroyed. They are then spat out into town, where they are welcomed by the townspeople and become, the heroes of the festivities of the winter solstice. So, that is Donwald's Dungeon. There's a nice title for you. Donwald's Dungeon. Okay, so, thank you for joining us, Spunkmeyer. It was quite a good one.
Thank you very much.
Someone has to run it and invite me to play. Sorry, you need to work on your sprite voice. Okay, I will attempt to work on my sprite voice. So thank you very much for joining us wherever you are in the world. Thank you for watching this after the fact. I'm the DMG, and this is Spunkmeyer down below me there. And he is a supporter of mine on patreon.com/70system, and that's how he appears in this video. So thank you very much for helping me out. And if you want any further information on 70 System, please watch the other videos on this channel, especially the Storytelling in RPGs playlist, which will help you story structure that we've been talking about here. You can download this from 70system.com, and you can see how that helps you with your games. So thank you for joining me, and we will see you next month, which it is the first, is it the first Sunday? Oh, it's first Saturday of each month this will be held. So the first Saturday of June, we will be having the next Dungeon Creation Live. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.